Deep within the vastness of the World's Edge Mountains, the dwarves have endured for centuries. Inside their massive holds, they work tirelessly to create the best war machines the world has ever seen. Masters of black powder, dwarves are well known for their effective and durable war machines. In this third part of the series focusing on the war machines of the dwarves, we will explore the artillery and engineering devices the ancient race uses to deal with the different menaces they have to face for their own survival. From the humble but deadly bolt thrower to the feared organ gun, dwarf engineers have wrought and maintained them all over time, moving them from one hold to another and from one battle to the next. We want to extend a massive thank you to our awesome Patreons and YouTube channel members, for without them, this series wouldn't be possible. A hardy and industrious folk, the dwarves are great artisans and craftsmen, particularly when it comes to metal and stone. These materials are the very things this ancient race values above all else, and their great mountain holds are wrought from them. The dwarves take pride in building and inventing things that are made to last. To use and preserve a device for much time is seen as a form of respect and appreciation for its creator. It is their belief that in doing so, they are venerating their own ancestor gods, who first taught them the arts of craftsmanship and gave rise to their race. There are even devices and pieces of work from the times when Gruumsh, Vlad, and Grimnir walked amongst their people. Items that are still usable and treasured beyond all other riches. It is not rare for many dwarves to travel far distances to visit the famous destinations where these legendary items are safely guarded, or to traverse thousands of miles to mighty holds where the display of architecture, engineering, and overall grandiosity is such that it reminds them of their own golden age, when the dwarves ruled the vast mountain ranges and their race prospered beyond imagination. A few examples of these places include the Shrine of Grimnir at Carrick Cadrin, or Slayer's Keep, depending on who one asks. The Stone of Gruumsh along the Silver Road is another fine example. On the other side of that same coin, many other dwarves travel vast distances and put themselves in harm's way if necessary, in order to recover long-lost relics sacred to their race. Many expeditions and even armies have been sent in missions to recover these lost artifacts, with varying degrees of success. Many of them have not returned. But these are things that must be done, as no grudge against the dwarves goes unanswered, and the ones that dare to steal their relics cannot be forgiven. With such importance and veneration, do the dwarves treat the expertly crafted items they produce in their forges. The highly secretive Engineers Guild is a vaunted dwarf institution. Though they produce many useful and practical inventions for the general dwarf society, it is the forging of war machines for which they are best known. Many engineers are often found inside their chambers or testing grounds, continually working and adjusting the engineering marvels they are working on, before finishing it up and moving on to the next creation. But on occasion, and when necessity demands, these engineers accompany their war machines into the battles they are used in. Their experience in the battlefield and the knowledge of every aspect of the war machines are of tremendous benefit.
I see beside me brave dwarfen hearts. Such courage will imbue my rune helm. This is the day to strike many grudges from the great book. one's dead. There is no other outcome.
Doing the dwarves' work since the days of the ancestor gods, the bolt throwers are tried and true artillery pieces, and many clans still swear by it. A well-placed shot can skewer whole files of enemies, and with their piercing power, they make a mockery of any armor they may be wearing. The bolt throwers are most effective when used against a large monster or heavily armored foe. Many wyverns, trolls, and other foul creatures have been victims to the piercing bolt this war machine unleashes.
Let us record great deeds this day, and give these scum a right royal hammering!
For thousands of years it has served the Dawi, and being a reliable and accurate piece of artillery, it will continue to do so until the end of days. Cannons are amongst the most powerful of war machines, and a mainstay of many dwarf throngs across the mountains and beyond. These devastating weapons were originally constructed in Zufbar, and such was its success that now all holds have cannons available, and many of the larger strongholds can make their own. Atop the vast holds and defense towers, many powerful cannons are stationed, forever watching into the darkness, ready to come into life and tear into tightly packed formations, wreaking havoc among the enemy. In addition to the cannons housed within strongholds, many clans maintain a number of cannons that can join a throng on the march, always ready to go to war, where the devastating firepower would be used the most. In the battlefield, they are placed in overlooking positions, ready to open fire upon the most dangerous of enemies, even at long ranges. A cannon can shatter the most heavily armored of foes, pour heavy shots into massed enemy formations, shatter city gates or fortifications, and topple the largest of monsters. This is truly one of the most dangerous of weapons made by dwarven hands. Given the quality of their production, many cannons have been in service for a number of centuries, and are highly revered and protected by their crew. But as powerful as these weapons are, they are also somehow unreliable. The slightest crack or premature ignition of black powder can result in a malfunction and permanent damage to the cannon, or even worse, cause devastating accidents to the crew and anyone involved. Even the best forged cannons are subject to occasional malfunction. The deadly flame cannon is used widely within many throngs. This war machine douses foes with a gout of fire and oil, causing panic and confusion within their ranks, and burning down the enemies of the dwarves. A just punishment for any enemy foolish enough to defy such an honorable and noble race. There are few weapons in existence that can put fear into the heart of a foe like a flame cannon, one of the deadliest and most effective inventions of the Engineers Guild. A volatile mix of hot oil and molten tar is poured into the flame cannon before air is pumped into the barrel. Soon the pressure inside is increased until the barrel is ready to burst. When the operators are ready to fire, they place a burning oily wad into the nozzle, and that action releases the pressure. The deadly mixture catches fire as it whooshes from the barrel in a leaping spurt. The burning oil arcs into the air towards the foes, illuminating all surroundings in bright orange, until eventually it lands in the middle of the enemy army, burning and melting their armor, drowning their shouts and grunts in living flames.
Let
the grudge be settled. Let vengeance begin! Ah!
When used in situations where more range is needed to reach distant targets, the crew were trained to know exactly how much extra pressure they need to apply and when to release the straining valves. Failing in these calculations can be a fatal mistake for the crew and anyone in proximity. The flame cannons are dangerous machines for both parties if not used well. Another notable invention from the Engineers Guild is the organ gun. It is called this because the war machine has a resemblance of the pipes on a musical organ. This deadly weapon can be extremely useful when dealing with numerous enemies. The barrels used in this artillery piece are smaller and lighter than an ordinary cannon that is built to fire a single massive shot. In this instance, the barrels are arranged and aligned in such a manner that with a well-timed shot and all its barrels firing to maximum effect at the same time, an organ gun can shatter entire enemy units in seconds. It lacks the range and the stopping power of other war machines, but placed in the right hands, it can decide the fate of a battle, as it has already for hundreds of years of war. Being one of the earliest war machines to be produced en masse by the Dwarves, the catapults and grudge throwers are some of the most venerated and well-used war machines by the Dawi. These ancient throwers are still used by all dwarf holds across the Kara's Angkor and beyond after all these long years. One of the most renowned of these catapults was perhaps the one named Goblobber, a legendary piece of artillery that shone during the terrible Goblin Wars a long time ago. The catapult would throw living goblins tied firmly against big boulders up in the air, and screaming all the way down into the massed blobs of greenskins running toward them. The impact was devastating and crushed many enemies under the massive rock, but it also had a morale effect on their enemies. Many dwarves had the practice of inscribing grudges on the rocks used as ammunition, hence the name grudge throwers. This was first done during the legendary War of Vengeance, where dwarf fought elf and elf fought dwarf in a bloody conflict that lasted for ages and costed both parties thousands of lives. Such was the hatred the Dawi had for the elves they were fighting, that they started with this practice during those times, and the tradition continues to this day. The dwarves that operate the throwers firmly claim that the engine can only be as good as the grudges that are being thrown, and therefore spend a great deal of time carving their pure anger directly onto the shaped stone ammunition. The dwarves are a proud and warlike folk. Their fury will live forever in the great book of grudges, until their enemies have paid in full for their trespasses and aggressions against the dwarves. Having developed many war machines over the centuries, and their engineering beyond any other race, the dwarves will continue to develop new ways to crush their foes, while the Engineering Guild continues to do its work as diligently as it has through all the time since its inception. The dwarves will surely find a way. On this channel, we are putting together narrative Total War cinematic battles and Warhammer lore videos. A special thank you goes to our Patreon supporters who help us in the making of more content. You can also join Patreon and earn extra perks while supporting the videos to come. Find the link in the description below. Make sure to subscribe, and thank you for watching. See you on the next one.